Hi, it's John from Crafts by John UK. Today I'm going to show you how to create this lovely, rusty, weathered, worn background effect. I've done it on a couple of pieces of craft paper here using some Distress Oxides. So I've used 5 different colours. These are new to me, they're not new to the range, but brushed corduroy, weathered wood, salvaged patina, crushed olive and frayed burlap. This is a palette that I have not had and I've been keen to try. So I've used it and I've used a smooshing technique with acetate to create this sort of worn, weathered, looks like an old ship or a rusty panel somewhere with lovely different variation in the colours. You can see the salvage patina, you can see the olive, see the 2 different browns and the grey. This one has got bigger areas of colour on it. This one has got slightly more white space on it. And I think you can probably see the colours just a little bit better on this one than this one. So I'm going to use these as part of another Christmas card that I'm going to make. And I'm thinking these will be baubles. So anyway, if you're interested to see how to create a lovely background effect like that, stay tuned. Okay, I've got all my supplies. So I've got this mixed media paper book. It's a quite heavy paper, 250 GM, 169 pound. And I'm just going to use a piece of this. This is literally going to be for cutting with dies, so it doesn't need to be the most fantastic piece of paper. So I've got my piece of paper. It's got a little bit of texture on it, but not too much. Let me show you as well then. I've got my distress sprayer and my mini mister. I'm going to use those. I've got a little piece of transparency which I'm going to stamp my ink onto, spray it and then dob it onto my project. And I've got my 5 new distress colours. These aren't new, so don't be mistaken in thinking they're a recent launch from Tim Holtz and Ranger, but these are new to me. So I've got salvaged patina, brushed corduroy, weathered wood, crushed olive and frayed burlap. Now, when I'm doing what I'm now going to do, I wouldn't normally use more than probably 3 colours, but I actually want to use all 5 just to have a play. Okay, so I'm going to take my piece of paper and I'm going to basically ink onto the acetate and then smoosh onto the paper, and I will use my heat tool to dry. The reason for that is I want each layer to be separate. I don't want them to blend too many. Some of them I will allow them to blend, but some I won't. So I'm going to start off with the frayed burlap. So what I do first of all, literally take the ink pad out and smush it onto the acetate. Now you can see there's quite a lot of ink on there, which is good. And you can either use the big mister or the little one. So just literally give it a spritz. What you'll see is that the ink kind of naturally bubbles up into areas. And then what we want to do is then work that onto the paper. We don't want to turn it down and just press it down, because then you'll just get a big ugly square on your project. What I usually do is I usually go corner to corner. That then starts the ink running, and I literally lift and dab it onto the project. Now, as this is one of the darker colours, I would typically tend to stay more around the edge of the project. Think about the colours you want really to highlight in the middle. I really want that salvage patina and the crushed olive. I kind of want a bluey, greeny overall effect. And as the ink runs out on your piece of acetate, you'll see you get less and less on your project, so you can then press more. So put a layer down basically. I've got just a simple cloth next to me, which I'm going to use just to wipe up the excess and also wipe off my acetate. If it looks dirty, I just give it a spritz with some water and give it another wipe. So that's my brown layer. That's the frayed burlap. It's a sort of a browny grey. I'm just going to use my heat tool and just dry that a little bit. If you don't dry it, as I said, you then start to get mixed colours. And these are all quite dark colours. You could end up with a real mush. So it's better to dry it between layers. Just going to lift that up. It's always better to dry if you lift the paper from the mat, because it lets the heat through the paper rather than bouncing it back. There we go, that's dry enough. Don't worry about this outside bit. What we're doing, that won't really matter. Okay, next I'm going to go in with the brushed corduroy. I want to do the 2 kind of dark colours first. That helps me kind of work out what I'm left with. So that's the brushed corduroy. Again, I'm just going to mist it with my spritzer, and then I'm going to go in again using much the same technique. So you'll see I'm just going around the edges, putting a little bit on. If you accidentally put some onto the glass mat, you can pick it up off the glass mat, but this just adds another layer of that colour. So put that around the edges. There we go. I think I'm actually going to go in again with that. I don't seem to have got as much as I was expecting from that layer. So just spritz that again and just gentle touches. There we go, a bit more this time. And as it runs out on your acetate, obviously you can press down more. If you find you're getting a lot on the mat, you can always pick it up off the mat. If I've got a lot there, I can just put my project down and then I'll grab some. So again, give it a wipe, give it a wipe. There we go. And then as before, I'm going to dry it again. Apologies for the noise. But by doing this, you then protect those colours. You can see the subtle difference. That's kind of an orangey brown. The other one is kind of a grey brown. This is good because it kind of helps to build up the colours. You end up with a lovely piece of background, or for whatever it is you're doing in your mixed media project. There we go, that's dry enough. Now, obviously you do need quite a heavy paper to do this because the paper is getting quite wet. So do bear that in mind. Right, next I'm going to go in. These are my two colours I really want to feature, the salvaged patina and the crushed olive. So I'm going to go in with my weathered wood next. I want to get that grey down so that I can then work out what I want to highlight with the olive and the patina. So I'm looking at my project and I've seen I've got quite a lot of area here. So I'll probably go in there. So I'm just going to kind of work my way around the area that I want it. And again, if you don't feel you've got enough, just go back in for a little bit more. Very easy to add just a little bit more ink to your acetate and then dab it in. Okay, let's dry that. I've got quite a wet bit on the edge there, so what I will do, it's handy to have a piece of kitchen towel next to you. Just mop that up with a piece of kitchen towel. There we go. And that stops that becoming a big kind of blobby mess. Right, I'm just heating again. And you can still clearly see the three different colours, which is the main thing. But what we want to do now is add our real highlights. So I'm making sure I really dry this layer because I want those other colours to sit on top. And what I'm imagining with this, because it's going to be quite a busy background when it's finished, I'm probably going to use some bauble dies and cut out what look like hanging Christmas decorations. And I'm thinking probably put them on a clean and simple card with just a white background. And that would be really effective because you've got a real mix of colours here. Okay, so let's go in, just give that a clean. And then I'm going to go crushed olive first because I want the salvaged patina to be the main colour. Give that a bit of a spritz. And now let's work our way. And you can lift off with the acetate as well. You see like a big blob, you can pick that up as I'm doing there and just bringing some more of that over there. If you see a big blob on your desk, just give it a rub. Cool, there we go. I'm a bit devoid of green down here, so I'm just gonna give that a little rub in there. And what you can also do, you can spritz your mat and then take colour off there that way as well. Okay, I'm just going to clean that because that is now getting a bit grubby. And then let's give that a dry. So we've got our green on now, which is that kind of nice olivey green. Some nice, really nice effects down here. Where one colour sits on the other, it gives you a lovely overlapping border edge. And here as well, this looks like a kind of a rust palette, which is the look I was kind of going for. I'm just going to dry the back as well. I said before on other videos, drying both sides of the paper does help the paper retain its shape, stops it kind of bending, particularly one way or the other. You can see when I lay that down, that's pretty flat. Right, last colour. So this is the real feature, which is the Salvage Patina, which I think is an absolutely gorgeous colour. So I'm going to use that, and I'm actually going to use my little mini mister on this one. I just want this to be a little bit finer. So again, now I'm just kind of thinking where I want it. I'm going to go kind of here and here, because I want to see this on top. Right, there we go. That's looking really nice. I'm going to put some more ink on the pad. I find this, when you use the little mister, it does kind of give you a finer effect when you actually daub it. And then I'm just going to go over this side, because I haven't really got any here. Now that's going in horrible straight lines, but if I then go over it again, that will encourage it to, there we go, branch out. Now that's looking a bit green at the moment. I'm hoping when I dry it, it goes back to blue, but then I'm also going to go over the top again with the same colour. You can see it's kind of greeny, but it will hopefully, with another layer, end up with that blue on there. You can see blue here. It's because the blue is sitting on top of other colours in the majority of places, which makes it green. But what I'll do is I'll go into some more of the places with the white, just so that it really highlights that colour. It's quite a bold background. A lot of people would look at this and go, oh my god, it's way too busy, which is why I'm going to use it as a kind of feature piece on a card. So as I said, I'll just get a bauble die, cut some baubles out, probably hang them with thread on a card, so that this sort of vivid colour palette becomes the feature, but as part of a bigger project, so it doesn't overwhelm. This paper is quite wet now, so I'm giving it a really good dry. There we go, but it's looking good. I'm loving the effect. Okay, so I'm going to go back in with the Salvage Patina again. There we go, and let's just go for some places with white. So here we go, look, we've got white here, we've got white here, and I've got white here, and that does create a lovely effect. There we go, and I'm just going to use that bit there. There we go. Cool, let's just dry that again. And in the places where it's white, you can see you end up with that lovely blue, and when it's sitting on all the other colours, it goes more to a kind of greeny colour palette, which also works with the olive and the browns. I'm giving that a really good dry, and then I'm going to do one last thing, which is I'm actually going to spritz it with some water, just to see if I can lift any of the colour off in the kind of larger colour areas. And before I do that, I'm just going to shut my door because there's an alarm going off down the stairs, which is kind of annoying. There we go. Right, so to do this, I'm going to use my fantail brush. I've got this fantail brush, which is by Lavinia, and I'm just going to spritz some water onto my glass mat, drop my brush into it. Make sure my brush is nice and wet. I'm going to use another brush, and I'm just going to knock that on. And what you'll see that does, it creates dots onto the project. And then with a piece of kitchen towel, go over it. And all those bits you see on the kitchen towel kind of lifts the colour out a little bit. And that just gives us a little bit more interest. You can also, if you spray a spray like this really slowly, you do get big drops. That's another way of doing it. That gives you bigger removal of colour, as you can see. And that just lightens it up a little bit. You can see that's now sort of taken some of that colour out of some of those areas where they were particularly dark, which is what we want. So let me just dry that. The paper is super, super wet now. I would now let this sit for a couple of days before I actually use it for anything else. It's all very well drying it with the heat gun, but you do kind of need to let it fully dry. But the colours are looking great. Make sure you dry the back. As we said before, it helps keep the paper flat. And there we go. So I've ended up with a beautiful piece of paper with some gorgeous rusty colours in it. You can see that salvage patina colour. You can see the crushed olive. You can see the two different browns. I don't know if it's actually catching it that well on the camera, but it really has a beautiful range of colours. So that's our project, made with 5 distress oxides and water basically, and a piece of acetate. Hopefully you found that useful. If you liked that, check out my other videos. There's other technique videos on my channel, and also videos where I make complete cards from start to finish, if you're interested. Thanks for watching today, and I'll catch you again soon.